Guys, it is Friday, our favorite day of the week. We got Kev and the Kabuki bar for Dead. We are headed out to Big Mountain Barbell. It's a gym that, if you guys follow me on Instagram, you guys have seen a little bit of. It's like an hour away from our house in Salt Lake City. We live right outside of Park City. Today, we are looking for some pretty significant redemption. Last week, we had 760 for our second single of the peak. It didn't go poorly, but it definitely didn't go as well as we would have liked it to. I see, what? People are being mean to Kevin. Traffic. I am apparently not good at making platforms. They just break quick. They dent in. That's why we're taking this trip out here. But like I said, we are looking to make today a lot better. The plan is 780 and we have to make it move really fast. And this is kind of the reality that I guess I don't really share often on Instagram when we are going for goals that are, you know, this outrageous. 780 is only 25 pounds sub comp max. With a goal that's 100 pounds above this, we have to make something that is 25 pounds sub max look like a 6 to 7 maybe. So that's going to be the goal for today. I am excited to show you guys this gym because it's honestly one of the coolest spots that I've been to in a really long time. I'll get you guys when we're warming up. Alright guys, so we are in the gym right now, in the bathroom actually, because I have to change. I have this weird thing. If I'm driving more than an hour, I can't wear the same clothes that I'm going to work out. I don't know. Don't ask me. It's weird. Superstitious thing. Even though it's only 780, kind of nervous because of how last week went. Our emphasis for the day is patience, being super patient on this bar. I'm going to get changed, get to warming up, and I'll catch you guys there. We strap up our breath belt, which is what we like to use for warm-ups, until we get to about 600 pounds. And really with, you know, just one plate on the bar, I'm doing whatever feels good and whatever I need to do to make sure that everything is firing correctly. So usually that's like a sumo rep, a conventional rep, and then some Pendlay rows just to make sure that we don't have any asymmetrical engagement going on in the scaps or tightness in one trap, things like that. After we make sure we're feeling good there, we go ahead and jump up to, you know, right around 4 reds. And that was feeling pretty snappy, but I hate using straps. And you'll see why here in a minute. We take our last kind of casual warm-up before heading outside, 595, and it felt pretty standard. We just took that last warm-up, well, it wasn't the last warm-up, the most recent warm-up, 595, and we've been strapping up, which I don't normally do, but Rondell, my coach, said it'd be a good idea to try and let this heal up. But it's honestly feeling a lot more healed than I thought it would be by this point, just 1 week past. We're only going to strap up until this 672 because that 595 felt very unspecific, which just means my tech with the straps is very different than my tech hook. Once I get over 5 reds is when I really put this baby powder on my legs, which basically just helps the bar slide up and not get caught on my quads. I'm a very vertical puller, a very high degree of external rotation, very vertical torso. I get a lot of that catching on the quads, but no longer. All right, let's see what we got today. Back to warm-ups, and this is why I cannot stand switching from straps to hook, especially on a day where patience is the focus. Straps encourage me to kind of yank because the bar's not going to go anywhere. Hook doesn't work like that. It's also a different hand height from the bar. Thankfully, we figured it out. And here is where you see this impatience really start to take its toll, where you see these hips rising, chest dumped forward. We are not maintaining that torso angle. That's not what we are looking for. That's all I'm focusing on. Look how stupid that looks. We listened to the kind man and added weight for 780 for our top set. And you're going to see 2 significant things go wrong here. Definitely the biggest culprit is going to be impatience. Same thing, high hips, loss of torso position. Second thing is baby powder, or a lack thereof, which is why my forearms get super sticky against my quads and I just get stuck at that lockout. We move to our back down cluster of 717. All a cluster is when you do a certain amount of reps, spend 30 to 60 seconds resetting, and then do a second certain amount of reps. So this was 2 singles. We do these clusters to get more practice at our setup, which doesn't really work with straps, but we had to take care of the thumbs. Those were 2 pretty inconsistent reps. Now we move on to our final back downs, which is a 601 6x3. Basically, all we're trying to do here is just get a ton of volume in. This weight is, you know, very, very casual. It's nothing I'm ever worried about, and it's really stuff that I'm trying to fix the deficiencies that we had. But honestly, when I throw straps on, I'm just so encouraged to yank because I don't really feel connected to the bar. I don't really know how much tension I have on it, and honestly, once I wedge in, I don't really know if the weight is off the ground or whether it's on the ground, especially with this kabuki bar that is extremely whippy. So as I wedge in, you see a ton of bend coming out of the bar, even with just 600 pounds. It's actually pretty gross to look at, but I can't tell whether that is all tension coming out of the bar and just slack, or whether the weights are actually floating like you saw earlier in the warm-ups with, you know, 484 and 155, and maybe even that last warm-up of 595 before we switched over to hook. Alas, we reach our final back down, and you can tell that I'm getting pretty fatigued here because that 780 top set really took it out of me. It might not be maximal, but if I get pulled out of position and I have a significant fight with that amount of weight, I am gonna get fatigued. I don't know how, but we managed to tear even in straps, which is always unfortunate. No. On to accessories here, starting off with the reverse hyper, which wasn't even programmed, but this is the only exercise that I will throw in a day if I feel like I need it for therapeutic purposes. I love that traction under load, that active pulling the vertebrae and discs apart, especially while I can also strengthen. So this takes a ton of tension out of my back before we move on to these 45-degree back extensions. Unfortunately, they only had 85-pound dumbbells in the upstairs area. I usually would love to do these with an elevated machine on a barbell with more significant weight, maybe 225, 275-ish, but that's all we had upstairs before moving on to seated hamstring curls. And here I'm really not trying to push weight. I'm trying to maintain flexion on my back so that we keep a good isolated contraction in the hamstrings. A lot of people will go into extension and recruit that lower back, and we are really trying to keep it all hamstring. Now we move on to one of my favorite back accessories, the seal row, which is just an absolute monster for building raw power. You have absolutely zero momentum. It is all just strength, which is why I love it so much, because as much as it builds, you also know when you're progressing. If you are yeeting around Pendlay rows and barbell rows, you can be using a little bit more English to compensate. Here, if you don't have the strength, the bar is just not going to move. We finished with some ab wheel, and all I'm trying to do here, I'm not really worried about how close I'm getting to the ground. I'm just worried about maintaining that parallel bottom of the rib cage to top of the pelvis positioning, and we finished the session. So we just got home, and the plan was to cap this video off with just thoughts on the session, but I do want to show you guys this. Bam! Dude, I've been waiting like a month for this. You guys are going to see it fully assembled in the next episode. But the bench single tomorrow should be pretty spicy now that we are not on this kind of crappy setup. I'm going to load the back of this truck with these pieces, and then I'll see you guys for the thoughts on the session after speaking to Coach. Okay, it is actually the next day. Because after we showed you guys this combo rack in pieces, me and Kev went to go put it together, and it was way bigger of a task than I was hoping it would be. Got all these cuts on my hands. Half the welds came terrible. We had to like hammer them in to make things fit. No bueno. Hopefully the rack performs really well, because that better be worth that effort. But thoughts on the session. So we talked to Coach, and there were a couple things that definitely hindered us. Yes, the baby powder mistake. I didn't baby powder the top of my quads, which has always been a problem. I usually don't make the mistake anymore, but any time that I don't, if it's anything over 672 or around 300 kilos, I always get stuck right here, which used to be a big problem, but hasn't been because I don't forget. But our main issue, which is what I was saying, kind of the goal of the day was to stay patient, was patience. And honestly, I think it's something that I just got too in my head about with this load because of the way that last week went, even though we were really looking for redemption this week, and maybe a little bit more confidence going into these last 3 weeks of super heavy things where we can't afford these mistakes because we won't be able to get away with it. So that is a little bit unfortunate that we just couldn't stay patient, or didn't stay patient. That is really going to be the goal this week, because squats and deads this week slightly underperformed. Strength-wise on both were amazing. Tech things, the important stuff, really hindered us from moving it as well as we could. So this week we are just looking to clean things up and really perform the way that we need to and the way that we know we can, in order to achieve these goals, because I am not looking to adjust expectations for this meet. Of course, at the end of the day, if it comes to that, we will, but we're going to make sure that we do everything we can before we have to change, expectations. So that's it for this episode. I'll see you guys at the next one.